I think we've all experienced chronic procrastination or coder's block, and today I'm going to share with you my best tips and tricks for how to overcome coder's block or procrastination, essentially how to get things done even when you feel like your body is like an immovable object on the couch. Some people might be more familiar with this as being a so-called lazy fuck. Chronic procrastination usually sets in when you're trying to learn something new or start a new project, and just thinking about getting to it kind of feels like having to start rolling a giant rock uphill, and your mind knows that it doesn't understand the stuff that you're trying to learn. It knows that it will take a lot of effort to complete the task, because your mind is pretty damn smart, yes, even yours. Learning something new is uncomfortable. It's painful in the way that you need to focus in order to understand. Mistakes are painful, having to redo things is painful, but just like the rock that you need to push to the top of the hill, once you get to the top of the hill, things start to change and you can start rolling it downhill. And that's when the effort pays off. That's when you even start to build some momentum. And that's where I want to help you get to get that momentum going and to the point where your efforts start generating that momentum. So I put together a list of the 5 best hacks that I've found that can help you get stuff done. The first one is, and stay with me here because I know that this is kind of a generic one, but I have some crazy good tips here that have completely changed the way that I do things. So stay with me, but the first one is finding a proper why. Figure out a clear and motivating why. And I really don't like when people suggest finding your why, because I feel like it's a really vague suggestion that's really easy to get away with as a suggestion. And the real thing that I always want to know is, how do I figure out my why? So that's what I want to help you with. I have some really good tips and tricks for figuring out your why that I've personally recently started using to great effect. Start by writing down your goals, as many as you can come up with, and then when you're happy with what you've got, you take a look at them and you try to figure out if you can create a goal hierarchy. For instance, let's say that you have a goal of making $10 from an app and another goal that is to get more followers on Instagram. These goals can be turned into a hierarchy, because if we assume that the reason that you want to get more followers on Instagram is because then you're more likely to get more downloads on your app and more likely to reach the $10 that you want to make from the app, then that means that making $10 from the app is actually the leading goal, and getting more followers on Instagram is actually a sub-goal of making $10 from the app. Getting followers is actually the how of how to make $10 from an app. You do this for all your goals, and then once you're done, you try to figure out what the top goals for each hierarchy can be categorized as. Let's say that one of the top goals end up being make $10 from an app. Is that actually the goal? Or is the goal really to make money from apps? And is making money from apps really the goal, or is the goal to make money? At some point you'll get to the most rudimental goal that is steering all the other goals. And at that point you've basically figured out the coordinates for your destination, or in other words, your why. So now you can start to question the route. How else could I reach my destination? When I first did this, I realized that a lot of my goals were kind of unnecessary, and I actually ended up removing a lot of my goals. It's very easy to set goals that you think will lead you to where you want to go, but if you don't first figure out the coordinates of your destination, then it's really difficult to find the most efficient route to get there. And that's why I think this is one of the first things that everyone should do, is first figure out your destination, then figure out the route. And your destination is your why, and your destination can then be used as a reminder of why you should get off the couch and do the things that you really don't feel like today. Also, this video is sponsored by Setapp. Setapp is a subscription for Mac apps. It's one of the best places to discover new and quality apps and to find all the tools that you need to be more productive. Setapp has over 180 high quality apps, so there's pretty much an app for every task you could think of. So with Setapp you can stay in your flow and finish what you started without having to go anywhere else. Head over to setapp.com and try Setapp for free for a week. If you like Setup, you can pay just $9.99 per month as long as it's useful for you, and that's setapp.com. I highly recommend it. Instead of paying for each app, you just pay a monthly subscription and you get access to all of them. Alright, the second thing that I recommend doing is setting alarms. I'm an avid alarm user and I set alarms for when I should get up, go to the gym, write scripts, program, film videos, etc. And one big thing that keeps me from getting things done is actually just forgetting the time. Eating and then listening to a podcast and all of a sudden 30 minutes have passed, okay, more like 2 hours, but setting alarms at least minimizes the risk of doing this. But don't forget that an alarm is very easy to ignore. I suggest challenging yourself to follow your alarms like a slave for a week, basically reprogramming your brain to the point where when you hear an alarm, you don't think, you just do what you should. An alarm is the most simple modality that we can use to exercise discipline. And don't snooze, don't postpone, don't just. Practice sticking to the alarm, because this practice will do two things. Firstly, it will minimize time wasting, and secondly, it will increase your personal accountability. If I say I'm going to the gym at 8, then I can trust myself to do it at 8. If you fulfill such promises to yourself consistently, then you'll start to build accountability towards yourself. If I say I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do everything I can to get that done. And this starts to build your confidence and momentum. You start feeling like you're the kind of person who gets things done. I love simplicity, and an alarm must be one of the most simple solutions for building discipline and increasing your efficacy. And my third advice may be even simpler, and that is to change your surroundings. One way to increase productivity and energy for a certain task can be as simple as just changing your surroundings. If you always work on a stationary computer in your room, then try using a laptop and sitting in the living room. Try going outside. And this might be better suited for work where it can be done with a paper and pen, because a laptop outside can be a bit of a struggle. But change your setting. Maybe you can move your desk to the other side of the room. Just some sort of change can have great benefits. Try it, you might like it. The next advice I have for you is to pinpoint your weaknesses. Figure out when and where you tend to get stuck. For instance, I love eating breakfast and lunch in front of the TV while watching something on Netflix, and usually what will happen is that I'll get stuck. And after I'm done with breakfast, I will usually still have a bit left on the episode, which means that I'll lean back and get comfortable, and before I know it, my body has turned into a block of concrete on the couch, and just getting to the computer that's barely 2 meters away has become a Herculean task, let alone actually working on the project I should work on. So what I figured out with my rocket scientist for a brain was TV bad. And so what I did was I tried eating in the kitchen instead without watching anything on YouTube or listening to a podcast or music, essentially in complete silence except for the lovely sound of me chewing. And that did really help, and I found that I consistently am more productive when I do that, when I sit in silence and eat, compared to the days when I might watch something like The Office. Take a look at your days and see if there are any times when you tend to get stuck or when you tend to get more done. And maybe for you, eating in front of the TV while watching motivational speeches really gets you fired up and ready to go. There's no right or wrong approach, but this is a way to figure out what makes you the most effective and when you are the most effective. And this information can then be used to set your life up in a way where you get more done. Alright, so the final and last thing is far from as redundant as this sentence. The last thing is break things down. I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's so important. Often tasks seem like they require a ton of effort because we're not really sure where to start. And breaking it down can really help you see that path. So instead of your task being start building the backend for the to-do list, it can become set up Firebase account. It's more clear and it's easier to start there. This is something that I believe is one of the main keys for getting more done with less overwhelm. I'm pretty sure that if you have a to-do list in front of you right now that you feel is just too much effort to even bother with getting started on, then most likely you haven't broken the tasks down enough. Planning ahead is really one of the keys to being efficient. Plan out your to-do list the day before, and that way you spend the energy on breaking each task down into comprehensible subtasks the day before, so that on the day of you can just get started straight away. You don't have to spend any energy thinking about how to actually start, because that should have already been taken care of. Alright, that's it for this one. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.